turn to Mike Nicholls, who's a businessman here. Mike, you woke up on Friday morning. You were very firmly Remain when I spoke to you before. In fact, 96% of the people who voted here in Gibraltar were for Remain. What were your thoughts when you woke up?
The immediate thought was one of shock, because we didn't expect it. We didn't vote for it. We, as you say, 96% of the people wanted to stay in. So imagine a community anywhere in the UK where 96% of people want something and you're given the opposite. So immediate shock. I think many were scared, but I think over time, it's not even a week since then. Over time, we're realising the impact of it, and I think we're all carving out positives, because we're a small nation. We can move quickly. We're resilient. We've been in this sort of position over many years before. So I think sort of that state of shock is turning into one of optimism, hope, and actually it could turn out beneficial.
Mike, I have to say, I think probably from a business point of view, that's what you're hearing probably among your cohorts. But talking to people at the border yesterday, there were a lot of worried people. Have you noticed any impact on your own business? You run an estate agency here.
Yes, we have, and there is concern. I think the biggest concern we face is that currently the border is an internal EU border, so it's effectively policed by Brussels, and if we end up on a Brexit, then that border could be an external border, and we are at the mercy of the Spanish. And history tells us that we can't always trust Madrid on keeping that border open. So the concern is for those businesses with employees in Spain who cross it each day, and those employees who've got a job in Gibraltar crossing it each day. So the effect we've had is a real increase in demand for rental properties in Gibraltar. So it's only been 4 or 5 days, but we've probably doubled or tripled the number of rentals we've done as people look to de-risk and move in from Spain into Gibraltar. That removes the currency risk, that removes the border risk, and they live here and should do happily.
But they're not prepared to buy. They're not prepared to put a stake in the economy. They're prepared to rent, but they could move. That makes them a very fluid population, doesn't it?
It's always been a fluid population, just because of the nature of our economy. But when you say they're not prepared to buy, they probably will be. It's been 5-6 days. We have 8 sales sort of going through the motions of completing, and so far we know that 7 out of 8 of those are going to complete. So I think in time this will push the property market up until such time that Gibraltar can build more properties, which it is doing at the moment. It's just that most of them won't be ready for a year or two. So I think in time it will even itself out. But there's a short-term blip in rentals, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, Sarah. I think I can now, and I hope the line is still there, I've got the opportunity to speak to Fabian Picardo, who is Gibraltar's Chief Minister. Hello, Fabian, can you hear me?
Hello, I can hear you now.
That's good, thank you, and a very good morning to you. Tell us about your fears. If the UK goes ahead, what is going to happen to Gibraltar?
Well, I think the issue for us is that those who have been supporting Brexit and who won, in effect, the referendum last week have put us, as Mike has explained, to a very great extent, potentially, at the mercy of Spain in terms of what happens in the flow of people across the frontier in the coming weeks and months. Now, whilst we remain a part of the European Union, as we've said, we heard said in the programme, Brussels polices that border and ensures that the treaties are applied and the freedom of movement of people is guaranteed. Once we fall back on non-free movement rules, then we are really at the mercy of Spain. But of course, there are 10,000 people who cross that border who live in Spain. They too will have their jobs dependent on being able to arrive at their place of work, and their place of work having the clients, if they're in the tourism or financial services industry, who are coming across that frontier to provide the work that they need to be able to do.
Yeah, you've had chats, I hear, with Sadiq Khan, the London Mayor, Nicholas Sturgeon, Scottish First Minister, 2 areas that voted to remain. I mean, is there anything you can do about this to make your future more smooth? Is there anything positive you can do?
I've spoken to Nicola Sturgeon. I haven't spoken to Sadiq Khan. My team has spoken to his team, and I expect we will speak soon. Look, I think it is important that it is clearly understood that Gibraltar will not seek to thwart the will of the British people, but that the British people have voted in different ways, and that different jurisdictions, and Scotland and Gibraltar are different legal jurisdictions, have voted in a different way. Gibraltar, more overwhelmingly than any other, 96% of people wishing to remain for very good and sound reasons. And London as well has voted to remain. And if there are now complex negotiations going forward about what the shape of Britain's relationship with Europe is in the future, and what that means in terms of continued membership for some parts, or continued access to the single market for some parts and no access to the single market in other parts, then look, we should not be afraid of that complexity. Gibraltar already has a relatively complex relationship with the European Union. We're not in for agricultural and goods purposes, but we're in for all others. In every area, the rules on fisheries could not be more devilishly complicated than they are already. The fact that there's going to be complexity here is the will of the British people, and we should not think that there is going to be a simple solution to what happens next.
You're going to survive, aren't you?
No,
the independence of Gibraltar.
We are not going to survive. We are going to thrive. We are going to prosper. This place is going to find opportunities that we might not have wanted to look for, but which are going to be there. We are going to grow. We may not grow at the same pace as we might have grown if the result was different on the Friday morning, but I will put all my energy and all my enthusiasm. So will all my ministers, all the members of Parliament of Gibraltar, every single businessman in Gibraltar, every single worker in Gibraltar and from across the border that comes in every day. We will make a huge success of this, as we would have made perhaps an even bigger success of remaining in the European Union. But if anybody thinks that Gibraltar is going to be crippled in some way by this, they need to think again. We're not going to give them the chance, and I've heard some siren calls offering us all sorts of advantages if we were simply to be prepared to raise another flag over this majestic rock. And I said to Parliament yesterday, and I maintain, we've got a sovereign, we love our sovereign, we're not looking for a new sovereign, nobody need apply, refusal sometimes offends.
Okay, Fabian Picardo, I think that's clear enough.